Hi, welcome to the Coaxum Report. This is Terry Coaxum, and today we're going to be talking I'm super excited because today we're going to be talking to my former boss, the Chief Advocate for Small Business Administration, Dr. Winslow Sargent, and we will again be talking to you about some tools and tips and helping you to maneuver the small business services and helping you to maneuver through anything that you need to grow, to start. We'll talk about some of the barriers. Dr. Sargent is a serial entrepreneur, so I'm super excited to have him on. Dr. Sargent, so welcome to the Coaxum Report. We are powered by Callaloo Network. We're also on Amazon Fire, Amazon TV, Fire, Android, and Apple. And so you can catch us in many different spaces. And this is a part of the Tempo Network and also part of WSTX Bloomberg. So welcome to the Coaxum Report.
Well, I'm pleased to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. It's always good to talk with you and see the amazing things that you're doing. And of course, the topic of small business and entrepreneurship, that's near and dear to both of our hearts. And so
Right.
this was a great opportunity for us to reconnect and share what's going on for small businesses.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing now, Dr. Sargent. Some of our listening audience may not know what a chief advocate is. And so if you
Yeah.
can kind of walk us through that, being the chief advocate in the Obama administration, where, of course, you were my boss. You used to always on the top.
Well, I always say that we were a great team, and it takes a great team to make sure that we are the voice for small business, the independent voice for small business. And so, yes, from 2010 to 2015, I was the chief counsel for advocacy at the U.S. Small Business Administration in the Office of Advocacy. And in that role, I served. I served as a voice and ears for small business, and you, as a regional advocate, you made sure that we were in touch with what's really going on, because it's one thing to be in Washington and
Mhm.
it's another thing to have the touch of to the day-to-day touch. And so we can only function well if we were in touch. And so the role of the office served a very important role. It was the voice in terms of we understand that small businesses, that when you're in small business, you really don't have time to learn about new rules and regulations,
Right.
all of the programs. Your focus, when from the time you wake up, from the time you go to bed, is to stay in business, is to grow the business. It's
That's
not
right.
to know about different rules. But what we did know is that what you don't know can hurt you and put you out of business.
That's
And
right.
so that's why the Office of Advocacy served the purpose is to make sure that because you couldn't be in certain rooms, we could be in the room for you to advocate on your behalf. And so, both as a regional advocate and in my position as chief counsel, we work together to make sure that the issues that are most important, ac- access to capital, make sure the
Yes.
rules are fair. It's a fair playing field. Those rules were to the advantage of the small business owner. And so that in a nutshell, that's what we did. And I think we did a pretty good job of making sure that government understood that small businesses cared about the economy, care about safety, but they also want to know have the rules that were clear, transparent, and predictable, so that they can do best and build this country and hire people and make sure that products are available.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I enjoyed about the office is you always reminded us that small business were the vital thread that held our economy together. And so when we talk about access to capital, that seems to always come up now, even more so, post COVID. So talk to us a little bit about that access to capital piece and any kind of nuggets that you can kind of encourage our small business with. We always want to come up. We have our problems. Remember, we used to do this in the office. He's like, all right, here's the barriers, but now we need to come up with some solutions too. So if you can speak a little bit about that, and then speak about your role now and all the things that you're doing to continue, like you're continuing to make sure you're fueling the economy by helping our small business, by investing in our small business, encouraging them, not just nationally, but
Yeah.
internationally and globally. So I want you to talk a little bit about that. And we'll talk about that, and then I'm going to bring it back because I need you to tell your story. I used to love to tell your story when I went out to talk to my small business about how you started your own business and then you were able to sell it for a significant amount of money, and that's no small feat. Understanding that what was keeping you up at night was making sure that you were doing your best and you were giving your best, but also that you were being fair and the rules and regs were fair as well. So talk
Yeah.
about.
Well, yeah, and this whole thing of small business and entrepreneurship, um, it is a marathon, or some people say that it's a triathlon because you have to bike, you have to swim, and you have to. I apologize for the background
It's
noise,
okay.
but
We're in the world of Zoom and cameras, and so we
yes,
understand you're outside.
yes. And so in terms of access to capital, the number one challenge that small businesses face is access to capital.
Hmm.
Because let's face it, it takes money to make money.
That's
That if
right.
anyone tells you that you can make money without access to capital, then it's very, very hard because you need to put in an investment, whether you need to pay for office space or products or hire employees. There is an investment that needs to take place. And
That's right.
so where do you get that investment from? And so within the government, there are a few areas that you can look at in terms of technology, that if you're a techie and if you have a new idea, there's what's called the SBIR program, Small
That's
Business
right.
Innovation Research Program. Now, this is a grant program, and this program gives away an average of 2.5, $2.7 billion a year in chunks ranging from $150,000 to in the millions. But this is a very competitive program. But
Hmm.
for those who are in tech or in healthcare or working with DoD, that's an opportunity to really get started and getting access to grants. Now,
So
for those,
let's pause right there for a minute
yeah,
because that's a really important grant because we know that being in technology, you're going to fail a lot before
yes,
you're actually able to come up with whatever that widget is or whatever that device is. And so let's talk to our small business a little bit that are in that space that are looking to do that kind of work. Let's make sure that we're giving them that nugget. Where can they find that information about the SBIR grant? And then what is an example of some technology that actually benefited from that SBIR grant that we used to and talk to when we were when the Small Business Administration?
oh yes. Well, there's a website called, I think is
That
www.americaseed.org, or also you can do www.sbir.org, and so
Mhm.
they'll take you to the same place, and so they'll give you more info about this program. This program's been around for close to 40 years, and a
Oh,
lot of
wow.
people do not know about it, but it's a tremendously successful program, and it gives grants, and also it's broken down into three phases. A phase one where you've submitted a proposal, and if you won, you can get from 150 to more just for 6 months. And then if that's successful, then you could apply for a 2-year program where you can get in the millions. And then there's a phase 2B, or there's a matching where you can get more funding. And then the third phase, you may sell that to the government, or else you could sell that to private industry.
Mhm.
And so that's a tremendous opportunity. And I know about this program because I served as program director for the SBR program at the National Science Foundation many years ago. That was before I entered as chief counsel for advocacy. And so I
Mhm.
know the tremendous benefit for this program. And so when you think of some of the success stories that have come out, you think of a company called Qualcomm. And so many uh, may not know Qualcomm, but this is a chip company. And so almost every cell phone will have a Qualcomm chip.
Oh,
And so
wow.
this is a multi-billion-dollar company that competes with Intel and
Wow.
all of these companies. This came out of this program. When you think of Symantec, this is a company that made software tools. They made the McAfee product. And so if you have a virus software, this is another technology that came out of this program. Zoom robot, the iRobot, where, for some homes, they have this robot that goes around and cleans up their home. This is a technology that was funded. The first
Right. Yeah,
funding
yeah.
went
Awesome.
into this program. And
Well,
then
we're gonna pause right there because you got a lot of information, and we got to take a commercial break.
yeah,
But we're gonna come back and talk a little bit more about that because it's really important that our small business understand that there is these types of programs out there that can help them build and to grow. So we're gonna take a little break and be right back. Thank you, Dr. Sargent.
okay.
So nice, so nice. So nice, so nice. Virgin Islands nice. So nice.
Dr.
We about to blow. Give me more. Give me more. We got one life, so we not gon' waste it. Live a large life, the rich and the famous.
I'm Charles Meriday, and I'm in the restaurant business. In my 20 years as a chef and restaurant owner, I've been able to work and eat in some of the great kitchens around the globe. There's a whole side of the restaurant that most people will never get to see. So now, I want to take you to the back of the house, into kitchens of some of the best chefs in the world. Along the way, I'll share some of my own tips and recipes so you can cook like a pro too. So join me in the back of the house for a whole new perspective on cooking and food. Order in. Roger. Serve it, please.
I'm glad that you came. Please.
This is your Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini. Those mortgage rates may stay low for a little while longer because of all the global tension, but eventually they will go up, especially when the Fed hikes rates. And when those mortgage rates do go up, it could have an impact on home buyers.
4% is actually significant in that it is the decade-long average. So when we're above 4%, we're now above that decade-long average. And it could be that that's the threshold that people really, consumers start to feel.
Michael Simonson of Altos Research.
In 2018, it went to like 4.8%. And you could feel the demand slightly weaken at that time.
So the big question is, of course, should you rush to buy now before rates go up? Or wait and pay a higher mortgage rate, but maybe get a slightly better deal on the price?
If you can afford the house and you love the house, buy the house. If you can't afford it or you don't love it, don't buy it.
And that's your Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini.
Welcome back to the Coaxum Report. First of all, I want to apologize to our listening audience. So we've been having a little technical difficulties today, but this is the Coaxum Report. It's powered by Callaloo Network. We're on the marketplace in our TV. You can join us on Fire TV, Android, Apple, Roku. You can even join us on Temple Network. So thank you so much. We're sharing the spotlight right now with Dr. Winslow Sargent, who's a serial entrepreneur, my former boss, the Chief Counsel of Advocacy when I was in the administration. And we just started sharing some of the access to capital opportunities. And my boss was talking about SBIR and some of the opportunities that are available through SBIR that some businesses are not even familiar with. And one of the things that stuck out to me, you just talked about one of the companies that received an SBIR grant, created the technology that we're using right now, as a matter of fact, on our computers. So the chip in our computer, in our phones, that was funded by an SBIR grant. And so you're telling us about a few more companies. And so we went into commercial break. So we're back to share some more nuggets about some of the opportunities available to our small business. Dr. Sargent.
Yes, and so there are a number of companies that have been funded via the SBR program, and the reason why it's such a great program for those who really can get into it is because it is a platform, or it is a gateway to get funding, say, from venture capitalists. Because I know that when I left the program and I, for a time, was a venture capitalist, the companies that I looked to fund were companies that came through this program. And the main reason why is that I knew that the companies that were funded were high quality, and they had used some of the funding that they received to move along the idea, along their technology. So it wasn't just from scratch. And so that's why I really do believe that this is a jewel of a program, and it's worthwhile to find out more about.
Awesome. So thank you so much for sharing that information. For those that just started listening in, this is Coaxum Report, and we're talking now to Dr. Winslow Sargent, who's telling us about the SBIR grant program. But Dr. Winslow Sargent has a wealth of knowledge to share with us, because he's a serial entrepreneur, and of course, he was the Chief Counsel of Advocacy, so he understands the importance of making sure that regulation is in place to not just for safety, but also to assist small businesses through the barriers, and also to assist them to go beyond that and to grow. So, Dr. Sargent, talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now and your role.
Yes, well, as you know, I mean, there's so many opportunities out here. One of the roles that I currently play is I am the chair of the International Council for Small Business, ICSB. So you can find out more about it at icsb.org. And this is an organization that's in more than 85 countries. And our whole focus is to be advocates for small businesses working with governments. And so it's building off of what I did when I was, at the SBA, but now I work with the United Nations. I work with OECD. Nice. I work with countries in Africa and Asia and Europe and South America and North America, all over the world. And so what we do is that we work with governments on how to put in a regulatory system that they can build an ecosystem that's sustainable. But also what we focus on is some of the UN, the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 goals that are outlined that and these goals are great, because if anyone can help to address some of these issues, then they have a business. Many times when you talk to entrepreneurs, when you talk to someone who's very creative, they don't know how to use that creativity. They're smart, but they don't know how to use it. I always say, go and check out the UN Sustainable Development Goals. They have identified 17 areas worldwide that if you can help to address some of these areas, then you have a global business. And so we work with governments on how to create an ecosystem, because many of these governments we work with, they recognize so goes small business, so goes the economy, but also so goes the stability of the country.
That's right.
If people aren't working, if whether you're in the rural areas or whether you're in the villages or in the favelas, it creates a tension on the social fabric of the country.
That's right,
And
because
so,
small business are the engine. We talked about
yes,
that a lot. Small business are the engine that drive our economy. Let's
yes,
back up because you just gave us another nugget, Dr. Sargent. So
yes,
there are 17 goals
yes,
that are small businesses. So if you're listening to the Coaxum Report, Dr. Sargent just talked about his role, and he was talking about 17 goals that these countries are looking for. And if the small businesses are listening today, and we're listening in the Caribbean, we're powered by Kalaloo Network, but WSTX, Bloomberg. You can listen to us on Fire TV, on Roku, on Android. But if you're listening, this is something for you to consider. We're in the Caribbean. You're hearing us throughout the Caribbean. There's 17 goals, and if you fit into one of those goals, you can have a global business. So let's pause there because we just gave another access point to building your business, to growing your business. And we want to stay there for a few minutes because I need to understand like what some of these goals are so our small business can, we used to say if you get ready, if you're ready, you don't have to get ready, right? So
yeah.
if we're telling our business about these 17 goals, that's something that they can now go look into, like you're telling them right now as the chair. But what are some of these goals that they can think about? Look at their capability statements, look at their capacity, understand, what the next steps are going to be if they're looking to fit into one of these 17 goals to take their business to the next level globally. So we're not just talking about domestically, we're talking about globally.
One of the goals would be global health and well-being, is to
Oh,
address
wow.
global health and well-being. There are companies who are in this area. For example, in some places there's a wealth of healthcare and doctors and nurses, and then in rural areas, then it's hard to find a doctor. It's hard to find someone in healthcare. And so what companies have done is that they have created apps
Mm-hmm.
where they've tied, and since so many people have cell phones these days,
That's
they're able
right.
to create an app where now it's like telemedicine.
That's
So
right.
so rather than have to have a doctor move to a village or move to a rural area, which could be hundreds of miles away, where there are lots of doctors, lots of nurses, someone who's living in a village because that's where they want to be and they want to work there, then now they can access this app and tap into healthcare services because
Oh,
via
wow.
video. And
Oh,
so now you have shortened the time, and now you've given access to those, one, their wealth of doctors who don't have enough patients in the city, and then you have those who are in the rural areas who can't find a doctor because they're just not enough. Now you've used
you're bridging the gap.
technology to
Wow.
fill that gap.
That's right. Oh,
and
that's
it
awesome.
and that software is not just for that island or for that city. That's a global business, that now that same platform can be used worldwide, for example.
Awesome. So,
Right.
this is really good information, Dr. Sargent. I'm so happy to have you on the show today because health and well-being is extremely important now, especially post-COVID,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunities for our minority business, for our small business to tap into some of the resources globally. So health and well-being is one of those that I'm sure that those that are listening, they'll be able to go back now to some of these. And you're saying you're working with the UN, you're working with all of these other countries, and they'll be able to go to ICSB and find out what some of these opportunities are. We're going to take a short break and we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about other access points for our small businesses that are listening now on WSTX, Bloomberg, on Tempo, and on the Kalaloo Network, our TV, that they can access more capital to be able to build and grow their businesses through the conversation I'm having with Dr. Sargent today. I told you guys you were in for a treat. So we're going to take a little break. We'll be right back.
This is your Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini. As we've been reporting, some investors from Russia already have their money parked in the United States, and they are continuing to look to real estate as a great way to keep money safe and protect against inflation. But Florida, Georgia, New York, California, Illinois, and Washington State could be among the states that do see a bit of a drop-off in buying because of sanctions, according to Realtor.com. Not too much impact, but possibly concentrated in the luxury condo market. And some neighborhoods in and around Miami and around Los Angeles have been popular historically among Russian buyers. Meantime, if you're trying to lock in that mortgage rate now, could be a good time. A bunch of lenders offering about 3.75% for a 30-year fixed right now. Michael Simonson of Altos Research says, though, even at 4%, the rate is low, but don't buy a property just because of low rates.
A 4% rate in a 7% inflation environment is still a really good deal. But if you can't afford it, don't buy it.
And that's your Bloomberg Real Estate Report.
I used to watch BET, MTV, VH1, now I watch Tempo. Soca, Calypso, Reggae Dancehall. Don't stall, better get tuned in to the tempo. Don't have cable, they got an app. Go to your app store, download that. Whether it's tourism, cuisine, or the social scenes, if it ain't Tempo, it's a rap. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. Mr. Latest in Caribbean news? Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too? Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. Mr. Latest in Caribbean news? Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too? Tempo.
You know you are a hot one. We are lime, we are laugh, we are chat, we no chill, we are hot one. Temperature rise, beer vibes in ya, this a hot one. Link up, connect, bust a sweat when you're dead on the hot one. We gonna spice it up like fire.
Welcome back to the Coaxum Report. The Coaxum Report is on the Marketplace, Our TV, and it is powered by Kalalu Network. Just talking to my former boss, the Chief Counsel of Advocacy, who's also chair of ICSB, and he worked for the National Science. There's a lot of different jobs Dr. Sargent has done, but he's given us a lot of great nuggets when we're talking about access to capital. So we talked a little bit about the SBIR and that grant that you can get if you're in a technology business. We also talked about ICSB and global opportunities that are available for some of our small businesses that are listening throughout the world. So you don't have to just be a domestic business. You can now even think about some of these 17 goals, health and wellness being one of them, and post-COVID. everyone is looking for better ways to deliver services, especially to our underserved communities. And so this is a really good one if you have a business in these areas. We're talking about the app. And Dr. Sargent, I'm not going to let you off the hook without talking about that app that you created about doing your homework. But we're going to come back to that. We're going to pause for a minute. We're going to pause for a minute, but just want small businesses to understand that whatever widget, whatever service that you're offering, there are opportunities for you. And so on the Coaxum Report, you come on, we're going to give you some of these nuggets and opportunities. And then the resources, I'm encouraging you, please come onto the marketplace. You can sell your widgets on the marketplace, your services. You can also tune in to us each week, and we'll have great guests like Dr. Sargent to come on and talk about their real life experiences and offer you some additional nuggets to start, to grow, expand your business. And so, Dr. Sargent, you were talking to us a little bit about one of the goals, which is health and wellness, which are part of the 17 goals. And just tell our audience again, where can they get those goals from so that they can go in and kind of figure out what their capability is and how they can expand their business through those 17 goals.
Yes, you can Google the UN website. The United Nations have the Sustainable Development Goals. They're called SDG 17, Sustainable Development Goals 17. That if you just put in a web browser or just Google, then you'll see these 17 goals will come up. And actually, the target for these goals to be reached is actually 2030. So we have less than.
Oh, wow.
It is still challenging. We'll move past 2030, but we're focusing on zero hunger, good health and well-being, making sure that we use products that's sustainable because we care about the environment.
That's right.
Our
ecosystem. That's right. Protecting the environment.
Yeah. And so there are goals that deals with education. How do we make sure that we find a way to educate those who may not have opportunities? And as you mentioned, there's a company that I was an angel investor and a founding chairman of called circleinapp.com. And so we're now, we work with universities. We have more than 85,000 students on the platform, more than 45 universities. And as a matter of fact, we'll be announcing, hopefully in a couple of weeks, more good news. And so we see the glasses half full. Yes, there are lots of problems out there, but all that means for those who are entrepreneurial, that means there are more problems to solve. And if you can solve some of these problems, that means that you can move the ball down the field and go a long way in making our society a better one.
And that's really funny because we always talk about on the show where there are obstacles, there are opportunities.
Yes.
And so we're encouraging our small business who are listening in today. If there is an obstacle, there are some opportunities, and there's some grants. There's some technical support. We always encourage our small business to go into SBA.gov because there is the different technical support centers that are in the colleges in their areas that can assist them if they are writing a business plan, if they're looking at a marketing plan, if they are having problems getting access to capital, because we know that SBA is not a direct lender, but they are, they're partnered with banks that are lending to these small businesses. And so we always try to encourage them to go on to those sites. Here in New York, we have the Small Business Services, and in most states, they have a Small Business Service Center under the city government or the municipal. We encourage them to go into those sites because there are programs available because we're getting our businesses ready so they'll be ready when they want to go global. When they're looking at these global opportunities, we want to make sure that they are ready to do those things. Now, let's go back to that app we just finished talking about. How did that app come about?
You mean for the education? You mean?
That's right.
Well, the entrepreneur, my good friend Gerald Meggett, he understood years ago that as he was working with young students who he was giving tours around universities, he saw that kids were addicted to their cell phone. And so he said, oh, wow, they're addicted to their cell phones. They're not putting it down. how do we make sure that they can use that cell phone for education? So that was one. Another thing that he observed is that young kids or kids in general will not raise their hand in the classroom.
Oh, wow.
Even if they don't know, no one raises their hand in the class to say, I do not know. They just sit there. They won't raise their hand, but they will text. But they will text, I don't know. They just won't raise their hand, I don't know. So how do we create an app via the cell phone where that you can interface with the teacher, where you can upload your notes?
Oh, wow.
Where you can share notes, and based upon the sharing of your notes, the more notes that you share from the classroom, the more points you get. And then we have a game. And also the third leg
game
of the stool is that people are very competitive. They want a game. And so they want to see a leaderboard with the top 10 point getters. And so what we did is that we created the gamification of education, where students could, by sharing notes, by taking good notes, by asking questions in class, to get more points. And based upon their point, there's a leaderboard. And at the end of each month, the top 5% of point getters, they get an award. They get a reward, maybe a gift card to Starbucks or something like that. And you would be amazed where now students are more engaged. Now they're taking notes in class. But also what we found that something that we found is that what it did is that it showed those who didn't know how to take notes, who were in the same class, now they could look at someone else's notes and say, wow, you take very good notes. This is an example of how notes should be taken.
Wow, genius.
And then we also found that there's some students who it's hard for them to listen and take notes at the same time. Mm-hmm. They may have a disability, right? Wow. Or if they miss class, okay, I missed class, and so that means I missed class for the day. Okay, but that's fine. Now you can go on the platform and see what notes were taken for that class.
Awesome. We're going to take another short break, but we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about that, because that's a genius idea. So you're not just, you're giving the young people a platform to share. You're giving them a platform to stay engaged. You're giving the educators an opportunity to see where the shortfalls are. And then they're all bringing that together. I mean, that's a genius idea. So we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Thank you so much, Dr. Sargent.
Okay.
So we're still working on these technical difficulties, Dr. Sargent. So we're going to continue on until we're going to continue on. But I really like that idea. And what's the name of that platform again, Dr. Sargent?
It's called Circle in App, CircleInApp.com.
Awesome.
CircleInApp.com.
And I'll be sharing it on my social media platforms, because I think that's a really genius idea. We're always looking at opportunities for young people, especially in underserved communities, where some of them don't feel comfortable sharing. So if they have this opportunity that they can engage and share on texting or through this app, it's an opportunity for them to now get better training, to be better qualified when they're finished with school. And is this on all the educational levels, or is this in a specific, is it elementary, is it high school? Do you, or is it, you said 85,000 students, right?
Yes, 85,000 students. We first started out in middle school and high school. Now we are mainly in college and community colleges, but we have a plan to go back into the middle school and high school, because we see that, especially in the middle school, that's kind of the gateway. You know, most kids do well in elementary school, but it's the middle school. That's where we lose so many of our young people. And so that's where we hope to go back into. But right now, it is predominantly for college students and community college students.
Okay, great. So Dr. Sargent, time run out when we're having fun. This was a great segment. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties we had early on, but this has been a Coaxum Report. It is powered by the Callaloo Network on the Marketplace. And hopefully I'll get you to come and join us again, because there's so much more that we can cover. Thanks for sharing your access to capital and your nuggets. And I look forward to talking with you again. Thank you so much, Dr. Sargent. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Well, thank you for being a strong voice for small business. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.